Hi, everyone. You're listening to episode 54 of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. Thanks so much for inviting us to your table. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We're a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Daniela, the goofy noob, and I'm joined today by the collector.
Hey, this is David.
The intellectual introvert.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris.
And the deluxeifier.
Hello, it's Pete here.
What's shaking, everyone? In today's mini Meeple episode, we're going to pepper you with our opinions on the card game Sea Salt and Paper. It looks like the tide's coming in, so let's get to it.
Sea Salt and Paper is a 2 to 4 player set collection and push your luck card game with an oceanic origami theme. Your turn always starts by adding a card to your hand, either by taking a card from one of 2 discard piles or by drawing 2 cards blindly from the deck and discarding one of them. If you formed a duo in your hand, that is, collected 2 cards that have a synergy, you can choose to play them in front of you, executing its power as well. Playing 2 crabs allows you to add any card from either discard pile to your hand. Playing 2 boats allows you to immediately take another turn. Playing 2 fish allows you to add the top deck card to your hand, and playing a swimmer and a shark allows you to steal a card blindly from an opponent's hand. It's important to note that you don't have to play these duos. You'll score points from them either way. Playing them gives you the power and avoids them being stolen, but also lets your opponents know that you have those points. There are also shell, octopus, penguin, and anchor cards that you keep in your hand. These award points based on how many of each you have. There are also a few multiplier cards that award points based on the number of specific creatures you possess. At the end of your turn, you can end the round as long as you've accumulated 7 or more points. If you simply say stop, all players score points from their hands and their laydown area. However, you can also choose to say last chance. If you do, everyone else gets one final turn. Then, if you have the most points, you score these points plus a color bonus, which is 1 point per card of the color that you have the most of. And your opponents only score the color bonus. However, if anyone has more points than you do, everyone else scores for their cards and you only get the color bonus. By the way, the game also includes 4 mermaid cards. If you ever collect all 4 in your hand, you win the game immediately. Otherwise, they give you an extra color bonus. If no one wins by mermaids, the game ends when one or more players reaches a predetermined number of points based on player count. At the end of that round, the player with the most points wins the game, and everyone else has to swim with the fishes. Sea Salt and Paper was designed by Bruno Cathala and Theo Riviere and was first published in 2022 by Bombix.
All right, guys, what is it about Sea Salt and Paper that adds flavor to the game for you?
I'll just say right off the bat, the origami art style really sets this game apart when it's on a shelf or even when I'm playing with the cards. It's just so unique that sometimes when there's so many board games to choose from, art does set games apart. And I think this one, for me, does it really well. Like, I see it and I instantly recognize, hey, that's Sea Salt and Paper. And I think that's saying a lot, especially because there's so many small box card games out there that I remember when I first saw this game on the shelf, I was like, that looks interesting. Let me go pick that up. And to me, you know, that's the first thing I think about when I think of Sea Salt and Paper is origami art style. I'm drawn into it. And now let's see if the mechanics can match what's on that box.
Yeah, I usually don't really care about the art. I mean, I can be off-put by art, but I'm usually like, oh, wow, look at the beautiful art for this. I know others at this table might be different. Usually for me, I want to know the game. But I agree that the origami is really, really interesting to me. My son went through an origami phase. He went through a lot of phases, but there was a time when he was just, give me the paper and make all those kind of things. So it has a little bit of memory for me, but also just some of those creations are really just really impressive. And to see them captured on those cards is really impressive as well.
Well, I'm going to go on the opposite side of this because quite honestly, when I heard the game Sea Salt and Paper, I was trying to figure out what the paper is. Are we playing paper cards? Until you just read that where it's origami, it never dawned on me because I am dead serious because so I don't look at the artwork. I used to play a lot of Magic cards and I never looked at the artwork, which was real important for some people because that's how they identified what the game. I always read the text.
Okay.
So when I'm playing the game, I'm actually only looking up at the top corners. That's all I'm looking at. Again, to totally being honest here, I never realized that it had anything to do with origami. So,
yeah, the box is really cool. And to just, I guess, pile onto what David and Chris were saying, the wave and stuff, even on the front and everything that they did and thought through on this, it's clean, it's nice, it has that oceanic theme to it. So it is really cool, actually. So yeah, even how they made the mermaid and some other things, just very cool. I'm enamored with people who can do like this out of a piece of paper. So it's very cool. Something else in the game that I thought is actually pretty interesting. When we were playing this the other night, I really enjoyed some of the ways you can actually do the powers on these. One of my favorite ones, I think, is just the swimmer and the shark, where you can steal a card out of somebody's hand. I mean, I was playing last night with Chris and Pete on BGA, and it was just kind of funny how we were kind of like stealing each other's cards. And I know I wrongly stole one out of Chris's. He's shaking his head.
Pete was winning by far.
I know. Looking back, I made the wrong decision. Not
really.
No,
I ended up
always the right decision.
I ended up winning it.
Yeah, so yeah, it doesn't matter who I steal from in the game. But I like the powers on these cards. It takes a hot second to learn them and know which ones do the type of action or power, but really neat how they kind of incorporated it in here.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to what other people are doing. This is one of those games where you have to have your head in the game. You can't just take something and be focused on what you're doing. This is one of those memory games, and again, not my favorite mechanic in memory. And I was actually I wasn't using notes. But
the truth comes out.
I was actually, trying to remember, okay, I put my hand to the left, so I knew I needed to take something from the left. I don't remember what it was, but that's what I was doing when I was playing the game, because you do want to kind of remember, because you get those little crabbies, and you can go in and you can basically go scavenge for it. So, thematically it's kind of cool. But the other thing about the game, there is that interaction with the people, and I do enjoy that part of the game. So I think this one comes through. You are playing the people at the table, and really trying to figure out what you're trying to do with the game.
Yeah, and I do like you mentioned the crabs. I do like those crabs because, if I see David pick up a shell, I know we need to make sure he can't get any more shells, right? Because that can be hard to do, but it can also score you a lot of points if you get it. So as soon as you see someone actually take one, you can't give that to them anymore. But you can't stop them from getting some crabs, right? You can't keep everything from them. And so a lot of times I would do that too. Okay, I see an anchor come up. There's only one other anchor in there, but I'm going to keep in mind it's in the left pile, right? Because if I ever get the other one, then I know where I'm going for 5 quick points.
Yeah, I mean, if you like rummy style games, I just looked up my plays on this game, and I've had 44 plays of this game. So that kind of tells you a lot about what I think about this game, because most games I have way under 44 plays of. But I always think when I play this game that it plays best at 2. I know a lot of times we played at 4 and you guys played at 3, but I really think the sweet spot of this game is a 2-player game because of that chess match with you and that other person, just going back and forth, trying to figure out what they're doing, how they can stop you. And I feel like it plays best at 2 players, personally, just like I feel like Rummy does.
And it's definitely a different game at 2.
Oh, yeah.
A very different game. I played with my brother online, just 2 players. And yeah, it was a different game than if you're playing with 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. I mean, lastly, I will say that I always like a game that has an instant win mechanic. If somebody feels like they're down and out, their lowest score, maybe they're not even close because you add up the score over rounds. But the fact that, they could always have a chance, no matter how far back they are, they could get 4 mermaids in their hand. It's very unlikely. But I always like that there's a glimmer of hope for somebody that feels like there's no way I could win, but somehow magically they get that 4th mermaid. And that feeling, when it does happen in this game, I've seen it, online, I don't know if BGA has a better statistic, so they give people mermaids, but the feeling that somebody, I'm sure, on the other side has because they came back and beat me because they showed me the mermaids is pretty epic. So not so much when you're on the other side, but it's a good time.
All right, so anything about sea salt and paper that's like rubbing salt on your wounds?
Well, I'll just start by saying, I think you talked about thematically. I'm not convinced the theme necessarily comes through. Yeah, the art's great. I understand the shark, right? Okay, yeah, the shark and the swimmer. Okay, you're gonna go and boom, I'm gonna bite you. But hey, you play 2 boats, you get another turn. That just doesn't click for me. You play 2 fish, you take one off the top. Maybe I can stretch it and say your crabs go digging and grab something. But the reality is, part of just learning this game is always having a look. Okay, what does 2 fish get me? What does 2 crabs get me? And thematically, it doesn't help. And I really appreciate games where the theme does help you and it's not there. And then David, you pulled out the expansion for us, and then it was even worse. As far, oh yeah, the seahorse does this. Why in the heck does the seahorse do that? Mm-hmm. And I think the answer is because hey, there's an origami seahorse. I can do something. I don't know why else, but the theme just doesn't come through for me.
Yeah, I would say the one thing that kind of threw me when we were first playing, and part of that was that expansion that we played with. I think I enjoyed it more with just straight up the base game. I think there's enough to explore there. But the one thing that threw me was the colors, because I was expecting the colors to do more than what the actual cards did. And once I figured out that those are two separate things, because you can have a shark, I was thinking that all sharks were blue, but they're not. There's different color sharks, and that's kind of that extra bonus scoring if you win. And I think the complexity, and I get the complexity on it, where you either say stop and just everybody scores once you're at 7, or do you, if you think you want to push your luck and you think you have more than everybody else after a turn, then you what does it say? Last chance.
Last chance, yep.
And I know, Daniela, when we were playing that last time, I don't know that you
knew what I was doing.
No, you beat me, but I watched you, and you had a handful of cards, and then you start linking them together, and it's all of a sudden, oh, I get to take another turn. You take another turn, and oh, I get to do this. And there were a number of actions that you took all at one time, and I think that was kind of unique in that. I think it's interesting that there's still that capability, even when you give that person that extra last chance, that they can maybe still pull something off or get that extra bonus card that all of a sudden is a multiplier, and then you're scoring for every sailboat you have.
Yeah, but you were talking about the colors, and then you were talking about the last chance versus the regular one. That confuses me every single time we play this game. David, you said you played it 42 times. Maybe after 42 times it gets clear, but every time I play this, I got to look to the rule book and say, okay, how does this really work? And wait, you don't get the color bonus at all? It just confuses the heck out of me every time. And quite frankly, when I go to the rule book, it doesn't necessarily help.
Yeah, that's one of the things I have written down. The rules when we were first playing, and maybe again it was part of us bringing in part of the expansion, but the little player aid cards were Duke and just not helpful. And I don't know, there was just a couple things on there that Board Game Arena, actually you could hover over the cards and you knew how to play the cards way better. So I think for learning the game, that might be a better outlet to use, because you're kind of getting that real time. Like if you're hovering on the card and you're saying, okay, this is what it matches with, but then this is its effect as well. And again, I know that's on some of the player aids in here, but there was one moment we were looking at the rule book for hot 5 minutes for one thing before we even started, and we were just very confused about what that was.
Well, even just do you start with any cards? And I think one of us thought maybe you do, but it's tough to find things in the rulebook, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is one of the few exceptions. I will put this as a con kind of to the game, is that I actually prefer it on BGA, Board Game Arena, than I do in real life, as far as like a physical copy and playing it, just because of how the math works. You guys are alluding to the scoring could be, really kind of convoluted, but when you play online, it's pretty easy because it figures out most of what you're looking at, and it tallies it up, pretty, you can play with like kind of like a phantom score on the side. I think, I don't know, I haven't played it in a while because I got burnt
It's just
out
right in the middle of your hand.
Yeah,
you have 6 points right now.
So
you don't have to count.
It tells you, and I think that is very helpful to me. That's my preferred method to play this game. I can't say that about a lot of games I play, but for this one in particular, I can't remember. That's why I think I had such a hard time teaching it to you guys, because I can't remember the last time I actually played the physical version.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And I think someone said earlier, not sure if the expansion is really needed. Was that you, Chris?
I did.
Or Pete said that. I don't disagree. I think the player powers that you have, or the card powers that you have on some of them, they're fine enough as they stand without convoluting a bunch of different things that you got to know what the seashells do and what the seahorses do and like all the octopuses and then the penguins. I'm like, I'm not even trying to learn what the penguins are doing right now. So it was just a little bit
They're
too
just
much.
scoring points.
Yeah.
Well,
just like a
fine.
normal penguin.
Yeah, duh. Chris is looking at me like you're an idiot. So before we dash on out of here, let's each give our final ratings on Sea Salt and Paper. So on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being a Fifth Meeple recommendation to buy this game, not play it on Board Game Arena, buy it, and 1 being a recommendation to burn, where does Sea Salt and Paper sit for you? And I'm going to start with Chris.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give this a 4. I enjoy playing this game. For me, it's base game. I do feel that probably the more I play it, I might end up eventually getting to a 3, but right now I'm at a 4, and if you haven't tried it, I think you should try it. I was not a fan of the expansion, but I think it came in, and again, at a time, here's some advice. If you think, oh man, I hear this game's great, I'm going to get the game, I'm going to get the expansion, do not start with the expansion. If you're teaching somebody else new, do not put that expansion in there. But I think that over time, I said maybe it would go from a 4 to a 3 for me. Maybe that's when I'm ready for the expansion and give me something else. But I need to play it for a good while before I think I need anything else in that game. But I'd give it a 4. I enjoy playing it. Pete?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 3 on this one. This is a game I can take or leave. If somebody's bringing it out and they want to play, I'll join in. I'm not going to ask for it. I think there's other games that I think I would prefer to play. And I think this is one of those games that I think the more you play it, the better you get at it. And it's just not one that I want to play a lot of. So I'm going to say it's not a bad game. I did enjoy it. It's just I'm not seeking it out. Daniela?
I'm actually going to give this a 1. There's a lot of paper. I'm burning it. And I say that because even though this is classified, I think, as a kind of push your luck, I don't feel that comes through in the game. There are way more other push your luck games out there that I want to play over this game, like a lot. And even though I had an okay time playing with the guys online and we had a lot of banter going back and forth in our chat and it was fun, I would not buy this. I wouldn't gift this. It's just for me, it's not an enjoyable game. There's plenty other games out there that I would put over this. So, David.
Yeah, so really quick, if you do want to buy this game, it is $11.48 on Amazon currently right now. And used, it's going 8 to 10. The price has dropped. It used to be at $14.99. That's where you'll find it at most of your local board game stores. But Amazon decided it's going to beat it. But to my score on this game, if you do want to buy it and you're feeling, what are the scores? There was a time where I played this really competitively, and that's how it was probably like 2 years ago when the game first came out. I got a lot of plays in it. I got really burned out on it, and I just looked up my score on it because I've been ranking all my games for 2025 and kind of where does it fall. And for this podcast, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. So at one time, it was closer to a 5. Over the years, it's just fallen off for me. And it's something that I could take it or leave it now, too. So that's kind of where I'm at.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this mini episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our discussion on Sea, Salt, and Paper. And if you'd like to get in touch, just email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com or reach out to us on social media. Of course, if you'd like our show, we'd love it if you'd give us a 5-star review to help us grow. Thanks again for listening. And until next time, stay salty, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Adios, amigos.
So yeah.
You know.